If you're a caregiver for someone with dementia, you know that some moments are just uniquely painful. And today, we're going to tackle one of the absolute toughest, the mealtime standoff. We're going to get into why it happens, and more importantly, I'm going to lay out a really compassionate, practical solution that can bring some peace back to your home.
It almost always starts with those three little words. Picture this. Mary is standing in the kitchen, her arms are crossed, and her voice is just firm as a rock. I just ate. For so many of us, this is the starting gun for a daily battle.
But here's the reality you're stuck in. You know she hasn't. Her plate's right there on the counter, totally untouched. The spoon's clean. You know she needs nutrition, but in her reality, in her mind, the meal is done. And that gap, that disconnect, that's the whole problem right there.
Okay, so the very first thing we have to get our heads around, and this is so important, is that this isn't them being stubborn. It's not defiance. It's not them trying to manipulate you. It is a symptom of the disease, plain and simple. What you're really seeing is a memory glitch, a cognitive barrier. For your loved one, that feeling of having just eaten is as real and solid as the ground they're standing on. So the moment we can shift our own perspective, from seeing stubbornness to seeing this cognitive glitch, that's when we can start finding a better way to handle it.
So what is going on in their brain that creates such a powerful false certainty? Well, it turns out it's not just one thing. It's a combination of specific changes in how the brain is handling time, memory, and even the signals from their own body. Let's break it down into 4 key reasons. First, there's a loss of time awareness. So breakfast this morning might feel like it happened just 20 minutes ago, even if it didn't happen at all. Second, the brain just hates empty spaces, so it does something called memory substitution. It just fills in the blank. It thinks, well, I usually eat around now, so I must have. Third is what we call emotional anchoring. Basically, if they don't feel hungry, their logic goes, well, then I must have already eaten. And finally, their internal body cues for hunger and thirst just get weaker. That sense is called interoception, and it's just not sending the brain the right messages anymore. And this is where our own instincts can lead us astray. Our gut reaction is to correct them, right? To use logic. We say, no, you didn't eat, or we show them the full plate as proof. But what we're actually doing is triggering their fight or flight response. We're not helping. We're causing them to feel defensive, embarrassed, ashamed, and sometimes even panicked. It just makes them dig their heels in even deeper.
And here's the key insight. You have to understand that when your world feels confusing, when memories are fragmented, clinging to something that feels certain, even if it's wrong, feels much, much safer than being told you're wrong. Being corrected just shines a big, bright spotlight on what they can't do, and that is terrifying.
So, if arguing and correcting and presenting evidence doesn't work, what on earth does? Well, there's a much better way. It's a behavioral strategy called Errorless Teaching. It's all about sidestepping the argument completely and preserving their dignity.
So what is errorless teaching? Think of it like this. You're setting up the situation so the right answer is the easiest, most obvious choice. Instead of waiting for them to make a mistake, like refusing to eat, and then trying to correct it, you prevent that mistake from ever happening. You just guide them to success from the very beginning.
So what does this actually look like in the kitchen? It means we stop doing all the things our instincts tell us to do. We stop arguing. We stop trying to fix that false memory. We stop explaining that it's been 4 hours since breakfast. And we definitely stop gathering evidence. The whole goal is to remove that moment of conflict, that error moment altogether.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how do you actually do this? You're standing there, your loved one is refusing to eat. What do you do right now? Here's your 5-step practical guide. Step 1, validate their reality. You join them where they are. Say something like, you know what, I hear you. It really does feel like you just ate. This instantly brings their guard down. Step 2, shift the focus away from food and towards comfort. Instead of saying, you have to eat, try, how about we get you something warm to sip? Step 3, offer a really easy, low-pressure yes. Something like, hey, come sit with me for a minute. That starts building positive momentum. Step 4, serve a momentum bite. This is something small, soft, warm, and comforting, like a little bit of pudding or warm applesauce. It's not a meal, it's just a little taste to get things going. And finally, step 5, this is the long-term game changer, create a predictable routine.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, because it's a question I get all the time. It seems so logical, right? Shouldn't I just show them the untouched plate as proof? Then they'll see they haven't eaten. And the answer is a hard no. Absolutely not. All that evidence does is increase their distress. It becomes a gotcha moment. It makes them feel cornered and embarrassed. Remember, our goal here is not to win an argument. It's to avoid one completely.
And that brings us to that fifth step, which is honestly the most powerful piece of this whole puzzle, the power of routine. This is where this whole thing goes from being a clever trick to a really profound philosophy of care.
I want you to really let this sink in for a second. When the part of the brain that remembers events is failing, a strong, predictable routine can actually become a replacement for that memory. The consistency itself becomes the memory.
What you're doing is you're not teaching their conscious brain. You're teaching their nervous system. You're teaching their body what to expect. If every single day at noon we sit in this chair at this table and something warm and pleasant is put in front of us, the body learns that rhythm. It doesn't need to recall that it's lunchtime. It just knows. You're basically building a new pathway for cooperation that bypasses the broken memory system.
So I want to leave you with this one final question to think about. In these tough moments, what if you just changed your goal? What if the goal wasn't to be right? What if it wasn't even to get them to eat on a perfect schedule? What if the goal was just to create a small moment of peace, a feeling of connection and of comfort? Because making that shift, well, that can change everything.